Kia ora again. Okay, so let's do some styling of this container because obviously it would be really good for the font to be a little bit in from the container edge, and we need to think about usability. So one of those relevant implications, if our user was on a really wide screen computer, we don't want them playing tennis and having to turn their head left to right to left to right to left to right to read it. That would be really hard. So rather it would be good to constrain the content within its container and shrink it and then middle it. So let's go and have a look. Okay, so first thing to do, we need to give it a width. So let's give it a width of 800 pixels for now. There's often talk of sort of 1240. That's another good number to use for sort of the average laptop size. Give that a look. Okay, so let's shrunk that quite considerably. Actually, let's do 1240 and we'll see what it looks like. So this is on run-of-the-mill laptop, which many of us use. Let's see if we can center this thing. Container. So we'd do that by dealing or styling the margins. So we're going to say 0, and that's top and bottom, and then we're going to say auto. And this is kind of magical because what happens is the browser goes, ooh, I need to give even sides on both sides, and there it goes. So that's cool. Alright, and the last thing I think we need to do is get some padding, and let's just have another, oops. Okay, we get some padding. Let's just have another look. So it's not completely rammed up the top, but I think it's experiment time. So we'll put a 10 pixels in. Save, see what that looks like. So that just takes the edge off it there, which is great. It actually brings it down quite a bit. So what I might go is top, left, bottom, right. So top could be 10 pixels, or actually it could be 5. Let's make 5 pixels. And oops, go back in you go. And let's make the sides 20 pixels. Let's see what that looks like. Oh yeah, cool. Okay, that'll be good for now. Now, I am going to go away and I'm going to add in a few more of these Div IDs. So places where the element only happens once, and we could do something specific for them. So the header is a place that we can make a Div ID. The nav is another place. Main is another place, but we might start calling that content just because I'm going to create some sections. I'm going to wrap sections around here, and the footer, we could change that to a Div ID as well. So I'm just going to pause myself and go away and do that, and then we will do more styling. I'm back. Hey, I'm just doing a little bit of tidying up with what I've done. So what we can see is, if we're looking at the body, if I click onto the body tag, that line shows up, and we've got the closing body tag, but it's got a yellow squiggle, so it's saying there's a bit of an error happening here. And at the very bottom left, there's a little triangle with the number 1 beside it, which is a warning, and it's saying that the pair tag must be paired. There's a missing closing div tag. Start tag failed to match. So I need to sort out how things are set up. So let's just look at what I've done. So I've got the bodies not happy, container. So that's my next one. Have I got everything sort of thrown in? Yep, that looks all okay. I've got I've made an ID header, Div ID header, so that looks fine. I've got a Div ID for my nav, and that looks fine. Everything's lined up. Beaut. Yep, there we go. Alright, now I've got my Div ID content, and here I can see that bright line is wanting to stop at the start of my next Div ID section. So in this content, what I've done is, when you last saw it, it just had H2P image H2P, image H2P. Well, I've put some div IDs around those collection of elements. So the first one I've called div ID section 1. It's got a H2 and a P in it. It's also got an image in there. Now if I click on that, I can see that that's all sorted. Now just by moving down, I can actually see that my div ID for section 2 is not lined up with section 1. So that's a good clue for me. So what I want to do is grab all that content. So the div ID section 2 with the H2 in it and the P, its closing tag, and I'm going to tab it so it goes in. Alright, so now if I go back to my div ID content, which remember is wrapping up my section 1, my section 2, and I've got one other section. I've called it an aside. So what I want is for my two sections to go one under the other, and I want this aside to go beside the two sections. And we'll have a look, but you can see there I need to grab that from its opening tag to its closing tag, tab it in, and then, yeah, so that's fine. And now if I go to my div ID content again, so I've got the section 1, it's wrapping section 1, it's wrapping section 2, it's wrapping the aside, and that looks a lot better. Now perhaps I need to, oh, has it got a closing tag? There might be the problem. So my div content, no, it's got confused here because I need my footer. If I move that in as well, here's my footer, and then let's just check what that's lined up with. Oh, content, container. Yeah, things have just got a bit confused. So I just need to spend a wee bit of time just troubleshooting that, debugging. Good to do it early on. Back soon. Okay, I'm back, sorted it out. And you do need to do a bit of sorting on the way. So when you look at your little triangle, bottom left, I don't have any problems, which is great. So what did I do? Again, I spent lots of time clicking on the body, you know, the different opening tags to see if it was going to match with the closing tag, which it now does. What I had forgotten to do, so I've got a container that's wrapping the header, the nav, the content, and the footer. So the footer ID I moved out of the content, and I just had to make sure I had closing tags in the appropriate places. So that's something that you are bound to need to do, and it just takes a bit of time. But what you can see is setting things up and having this indentation works a treat, because then you can actually kind of track where things are or where things should be. Alright, what have we done with the styling? So we've got that to there. I think I should pause this right now because it's been going for a while, and we will style some more in a moment.